All right, we're going to call the meeting to order now. And I'm going to ask the town clerk to please do the roll call.
David Becker. Michael Hurley. Jay Lipp. Gaylord Meyer. Eric Sunman. Pete Ambrose. Amy Jennings. John Matola. Jeff Steele.
Here.
Keith Varian. Ed Bateson. Tom Conley. Hank Ferentz. Dave McKenzie. Mary McCullough. Heather Dean. Joe DiMartino. Art Hug. Amy Mezoff. Joe Palmer. Matt Ambrose. Josh Garskoff. Chris McAleese. Ruth Smay. Ann Stamler. Chris Brogan. Lenora Campbell. Julie Gottlieb. Sheila Marmion. Jay Wolk. Jen Hochberg. Kevin Hopkins. Eric Newman. Mark Patton. Hal Schwartz. Kathy Braun. Dana Carey. Alan Marks. Tom McCarthy. Jeff Stopa. Bill D'Amica. Joe Fellner. Ellen Jacob. Nick Mirabile. Carol Pontrelli. Chuck Abercrombie. Lee Hannum. Ken Lee. Bruce Ryan. Carol Way.
Thank you, Betsy. All right, I'd like to just get everyone's attention, please, because I want to start the meeting. In doing so, I'd like to ask my three kids to come up to the microphone, please. Alex, Ben, and Julia. Come on up front. Yes, it is. All right, I'm entitled to one time, right? How many sporting events do I have to have them taken out of? Here, guys, come on, stand right over here. Right over here. Right over here. Serving as moderator for the last 3.5 years has been a tremendous experience, but it has also required a significant amount of work and time to prepare for every meeting and to stay on top of the RTM's ongoing business and proceedings. Much of this work has been done at home with my family around. They understand the level of commitment and responsibility I took on, not only as an RTM member, but more so as moderator. And for that, I'd like to thank my wife, Brenda, and my kids, Alex, Ben, and Julia, for being so supportive of my role in the RTM and being for just such great kids. Right. So, as this will be the last time they have the opportunity to do this, I'd like them to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Just get it all together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if you just want to stay standing for a moment of silence. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Good job. Good job. All right, good job, buddy. Good job, guys. Now go do your homework. Well, welcome everyone. As we all know, this is the last official meeting of this term of the current membership of the RTM. 14 of you, almost 30% of this body, are not running again. And so this is your last meeting. I would like to acknowledge those members who have either decided to seek election to other offices or who have made the decision not to run at all. In both cases, it is important that you are all recognized. When I call your name, please stand up and remain standing. In District 1, David Becker. David is running for the Board of Finance, and we wish you the best of luck. District 2, Amy Jennings. Thank you, Amy, for serving the remainder of Chad Stewart's term. District 3, Tom Conley. Tom served from 1995 until 2007 in District 10, and then again from 2009 until present in District 3. So he served a total 16 years in this body and has been a tremendous resource for all of us. District 4, Art Hug. District 5, Chris McAleese. District 5, Ann Stamler. And I just want to say, over the last 6 years, this is more of a personal that we have served together. I have to say that I've always considered you one of the most diligent, active, and respectful members of this body. And I want to say that publicly. District 6, Chris Brogan. District 6, Lenora Campbell. District 7, Mark Patton. Mark is also running for the Board of Education. And the best of luck to you, too. Ken Lee, I know you're also running, but you're not leaving necessarily. District 8, Dana Carey. Also in District 8, Jeff Stopa. District 9, Nick Mirabili. And finally, Joe Fellner, District 9. Joe was appointed in July 1993 after Sophie Matsopoulos passed away. Joe held his seat until 1997, and then again from 1999 in District 8, before moving to District 9 until present. He has served, if I'm correct, 18 years on the RTM. Unbelievable. Congratulations. And I'm sorry, District 10, I didn't flip my page, Chuck Abercrombie, and last but not least, Chuck, I'm sorry. My apology. Didn't flip the page here. As you stay standing, I would like to thank all of you for serving in the RTM. You have dedicated significant parts of your personal and work lives to represent your constituents, to serve this body and the town, and to make many difficult decisions that were in the best interests of keeping Fairfield strong and vibrant. Those are noble pursuits. Thank you all, and good luck to you in your future pursuits, whether they will continue to be in town government or other civic cause or organization, or in just dedicating more time to your families and jobs. Our town is lucky to have had you all in this body and in Fairfield's government, so thank you all again. I'm just going to continue on that note for another minute and a half. At the same time, as you know, this is my last meeting as moderator. As I said earlier, I have served in this role for most of the last 2 terms, over 3.5 years. And I must say it's been a fulfilling and rewarding experience. Still today, I feel so honored and humbled and fortunate to have been elected by all of you to serve as moderator of the RTM and to be a major part of the governing of this town. Needless to say, I've learned a tremendous amount, not just about the inner workings of our town government, the legislative process, parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order, but most importantly, I've been fortunate to work with all of you. All smart, dedicated individuals who, regardless of the party, have one goal in mind, and that's to serve Fairfield's best interest to grow and prosper. I've always tried to bring a fair and equitable and even-keeled approach to moderating this body, and while there have certainly been some inevitable bumps and bruises and disagreements along the way, I hope I end this term with a sense of understanding among this membership that all of my actions as moderator have been towards the pursuit of one objective, ensuring that the business of the RTM is completed with the opportunity for all members to be heard and to participate in the governing process. I thank you again for the opportunity to serve as moderator and for the trust you have placed in me. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks, Betsy and Kyle, for their endless work here as clerks of the meeting. So thank them too very much. On to our business. Item number 2, to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meetings held on September 23rd, 2013. Are there any amendments or changes to the minutes? Hearing none, we're going to vote on the change on the minutes for September 23rd. Is that the right date? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes pass. Now go on to item number 3, to consider and act upon the following appointment to the Employees Retirement Board as recommended by the First Selectman. Sanford Herman, Democrat, 465 Fulling Mill Lane, term November 2012 to 2017. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Dean, a second. Representative Hopkins. I don't believe Mr. Herman was able to attend the committee meetings on Monday and Wednesday, but he is here, so I'd like, Mr. Herman, if you'd come up to the microphone and if you wouldn't mind just giving a quick background on yourself, and we can open it up to the floor for any questions. And we all got the survey and your bio and all that, but it would be helpful.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Sanford Herman. I've lived at 465 Fulling Mill Lane with my wife Gloria and daughter Rebecca since August of 1999. I'm an actuary by profession. I'm a fellow of the Society of Actuaries and a member of the American Academy of Actuaries. And previously, I was federally certified as an enrolled actuary under ERISA. I have spent my entire career of over 40 years in the employee benefits field, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to use my professional expertise and experience to help the town monitor its retirement program. Okay, open up for any questions you might have.
Any questions? You're getting off easy. Look at that. No questions? Representative Jacob, come on down.
Ellen Jacob, District 9. This is a question I've always wanted to ask, and I hope it's one you want to answer. One of your specialties, I think, is in some of the emerging issues being debated right now regarding the actuarial assumptions that are chosen to determine some of these, the funded status of the pension plans. It actually has come up sometimes here in this body when we've been looking at our own summaries of pension plans and their return and so forth. So my question is, you are somewhat familiar, I would think, with not as much as you will be once you start working with us if you're approved. Where would you start looking with the hopes of improving some of our assumptions so that we could have closer accounting of this?
Okay, well, one of the things I did mention, I was an enrolled actuary, and I spent about 3 years at a consulting firm dealing with pension plans, and part of that was developing actuarial valuations, including the assumptions. One of the problems we've really had to face in both our profession and the governments have had to face are the questions of what are appropriate actuarial assumptions, and in particular, the key one that plays in is the assumed rate of interest or earnings that a pension plan is likely to have, and it's been a very controversial one even within the actuarial profession. I think the concerns really are to look at the recent past performance of the pension plan, what kind of assets it's in, and then a reasonable expectation as to the expected earnings level. I've seen that for the plans in Fairfield, the interest rate or the earnings rate that was assumed has been brought down modestly by Hooker and Holcomb, who are the consulting actuaries. And even with that, the question is whether the assumption is too aggressive. You've got the major concern that if the actual assumptions are set on a moderately conservative or even realistic basis, they could wind up adding significantly to the burden of the finances of the town. On the other hand, the discipline is necessary, and if you don't pay now, sooner or later you're going to have a real problem. I note that the Fairfield pension plans are very well funded. On the other hand, I'm aware that many state plans, including the state of Connecticut, are far from that situation. So it's a very complicated question, and there's likely to be tension in terms of the different parties that are playing in this thing. The actuary is sort of caught in the middle, but has to take a very strong position as to what is a realistic assumption on that. That's probably the key one. Mortality assumptions, those don't change dramatically. Assumptions as to retirement ages, things of that, those are a lot easier to monitor.
Thank
Hope
you.
that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Representative McCullough?
Hi, thank you. Mary McCullough, District 3. One of the items that we were given was a questionnaire, and one of the questions that you answered was, how did you learn about this position? And your response was, I became aware of this through Mike Tetro's office after writing about my concerns regarding employee benefit costs. So could you please explain to us what exactly you wrote to Mr. Tetro and what your concerns are? Thank you.
Okay, and some of this really was at my wife's urging.
Is she with you tonight? Did she come with you tonight?
No, she
I wanted to
didn't.
shake her hand.
I have a feeling she's watching right now, so I probably dug a little hole for myself. But nevertheless, the concern really was less with the pension benefits, which I haven't really dealt with in great depth over the last 25 years. My most recent experience has been really in the welfare benefits. I was at Guardian for about 24 years. I was their chief group actuary, and I was the chief actuary of HealthNet's Northeast operation for the last 4.5 years that they were in existence before selling the membership rights to United. And very sensitive to health insurance costs and the levels of contributions. That's where there are significant dollars that are being expended. The concern is that in the private industries, employees pay a far more significant portion of the bill for these employee benefits. And I think then they have a greater appreciation of how much they're worth and how much they cost. And there was a concern when this whole budget issue came up and the potential tax increase as to whether there were areas that could be reasonably cut where say the benefit levels and the required contributions were more liberal that would be in the, I'll call it the private industry norm. And so this was an issue of concern, and there were some plans where employees are not paying that much, in which certainly my wife and I felt was an area to explore in terms of the reasonable likelihood of saving the town some dollars, both currently as well as long term. So that was basically the issue that got me involved in this.
Please thank my wife.
Oh.
I appreciate that, and thank you very much for your office.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Any members of the public? Thank you, Mr. Herman.
Okay.
Appreciate that. I hope your wife has some dinner left over for you after that. So we're going to open this up to the body for discussion. Is there any comments from the body here? Okay. I'm going to go back to the public again. I probably already did this twice, but we'll do it again. Okay. We're going to vote on Mr. Herman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations, Mr. Herman. And you don't have to stay, just so you know. So you're welcome to, but don't feel obligated to stay for the rest of the meeting. But thank you for coming tonight. Okay, on to item number 4, which is to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that in accordance with a request from the Director of Public Works, the power purchase agreement between the Town of Fairfield and Green Skies for the purpose of erecting a photovoltaic electric generation system on the roof of the Public Works Garage at 705 Richard White Way for the benefit of the Public Works Garage, and to grant the appropriate access, the term of the agreement being 20 years, be and hereby is approved. May I have a motion to approve? Representative, let's go, Marks, and second, Representative Hochberg. Now, I don't have the committee. I got all the committee minutes. This didn't really work so well this year. I got all the minutes today. I just didn't have any time to compile them. They came in, I don't even think I got all of them, late afternoon. It just was very hard to do, and hopefully the next term we can figure out a better process for this. Didn't work as well as I had wanted. So I don't have votes for you all, but I think at this point we're just going to open this item up right now to discussion, and we'll go from there. Yeah. Why don't you make Representative Braun, why don't you make a motion? We'll go that way. Yeah.
Catherine Braun, District 8. Our town attorney has confirmed that all the contracts for items 4 through 9 are the same template. And since at least our committee had the same discussion, we consolidated our discussion. So I would move that we consolidate our discussion of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 together.
No, discussion only, vote separately. Obviously. We can't vote on all of them at once. So you'll have one
Okay.
big discussion on all of them. We'll go through each of them
That seems to
separately.
make sense.
Okay. Representative Garskoff seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We had no discussion on it. Abstentions? Okay. Doesn't seem like there would have been much discussion. All right. So we're going to open all 5 of these now up to the floor for discussion, questions, comments. And then once that is all done, we'll go through a vote on each of them. So, any comments? Any members? Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. I'll follow up with, I believe it's either Ed Bowman or Stanton Lesser. In LNA, we had 3 issues. One issue was the consideration of decreasing the term to 15 years. The other was the roof warranty, as opposed to a verbal representation. We were hoping to see something written from the warranty companies for the roofs. And the third thing was an analysis of the roofs involved and the estimated life of those roofs. Did you get anything on those?
Ed Bowman. I had included an estimated lifespan of the roofs in the package that everyone got anyway. But the second thing is we're making a condition precedent that the holder of the warranty on the roof would have to certify that the installation will not negatively affect the guarantees. And that'll be done through a meeting on the roof. They will walk the roof with the vendor and with the town engineering department And after that, they will be asked to sign a letter, send it to the town. There will be no negative effect on the warranty. As far as the 15 years, I think as I try to point out and confirmed a little bit today, to go to 15 years would change the economics of the project so much that only the one at the recreation center could still be done. It would increase the amount of money initially paid to the vendor by us by over 3 cents a kilowatt hour by shortening it to 15 years. And only at the rec center where there's we start at 8 cents, would that even be economically viable. All the other projects just would not be able to be done at a way we could save money.
So by going to 15 years, it's going to increase it 3 cents a kilowatt hour.
Correct.
So there's a cost associated with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Before they're spreading their payments out over 20 years and their recovery out over 20
They were amenable to the change, but with that cost
Yeah,
attached.
Wouldn't work for us, though. Because we wouldn't.
Yep. Okay.
We would go beyond 15 cents a kilowatt hour in payment to them long before the term of the contract expired.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the body? Representative Ambrose.
Peter Ambrose, District 2. On Monday night, we discussed placing some of the panels on the ground in areas other than the roof. And have you vetted that issue out?
Yes, the contractor is certainly willing to do that if there's any problem with the roofs. We would prefer to stay on the roof because we may be coming back in another year with a larger photovoltaic project on the landfill, and this would take away from that project. However, if there's a problem with the roof, then it would be put on the ground at the landfill.
Does that answer your question, Representative Ambrose? Representative Walk?
Jay Wolk, District 6. I just want to make sure that what I'm understanding, as I think we discussed at our committee meeting, is that these solar panels on the roof will not be bolted down, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Representative Gottlieb?
Julie Gottlieb, District 6. Jeez. Can you just briefly go through the process for vendor selection, whether we needed an RFP for this process or whether that doesn't qualify?
The vendor selection process was a little looser than that. There was no RFP. What had happened, when the state announced this program and held a series of meetings in Hartford on it, we were approached by a number of vendors who were at those meetings. We then looked at the vendors and chose 4 of them to proceed with. We gave them a set of guidelines. One was that they would have to price their project so against the current price of electricity for 20 years, assuming no increase in the cost of electricity. That's something they didn't want to do, but we were able to do that. But that's one of the other reasons to go to 20 years. We gave them a 20-year time to recover their money rather than 15 in order to be able to get that pricing better. Secondly, they had to all agree to whatever they're going to bid on for the rec to the state, we would be party to that bidding and go along with it. Because if they bid a too high a number, they wouldn't get the project. If they bid too low a number, they would give us a number for power purchase that would be great, but they wouldn't win the project. So we went through that. So 4 companies were chosen. Along the way, 2 of them dropped out. One of the companies just did not want to do projects this small. They were only interested in a megawatt or bigger. These were too small for them. Second company just dropped out of working in Fairfield for whatever reason, and never gave us a reason. Now they're coming back looking for work. The other 2 companies that were left were both Connecticut companies. Both had experience in Connecticut. One of them was deemed better suited for the larger projects because they had that kind of experience in larger projects. The second one was more deemed suitable for the smaller projects. Again, that was their experience in Connecticut in those projects. Based on that, we received proposals from both of them on these projects. We chose the sites together. Again, they're certainly better able to figure out which sites are more suitable for the project in terms of not being shaded by the sun or being facing the proper direction and being sized large enough to make it work. So that's basically the process that we went through.
Great, thanks.
Representative Patton. Well, you guys aren't sitting. You guys aren't sitting next to each other anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that anymore. Just help you out. Mark Patton, District 7. Representative Gottlieb asked my first question, so thank you for that. You talked at our committee meetings about, there'll be future projects coming up the pike, and as we discussed, the school system, the school buildings take up 2/3 of the electrical use that we use in the town. So what projects do you anticipate in, let's say, wave 2 or 3? And do we have a time frame? I know this one in particular is going to take about 1.5 years to get off the ground. So what's next after that?
Well, there's 2 answers. We did submit 4 projects for the schools during the last go-around. One solar project did win, which is to cover the whole western part of the railroad station parking lot. That'll be before in another month or 2. It hasn't been finalized yet, but the project won the bid. That will provide 1 megawatt and 1.2 megawatts of power at the Tomlinson Junior High. They also bid 3 different fuel cells at Ward and at Ludlow High and Ludlow Junior High. However, they did not win the bid. So those 4 were in contention and maybe again. What other schools may be in contention, you have to ask the Board of Education. I'm not aware of any beyond that.
So is that a situation where the Board of Education, Tom Cullen, the facilities director, would he have to go and push that forward, or is that something that you guys would be working together on?
We've been working together on those projects, but they have to let us know where they would want to put the project, then we'll all work together. So I'm not choosing the schools, you know what I mean?
Right, and then they decide, or then you decide which companies would go out.
Well, we do it together, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Representative McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy, District 8. Through you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Bowman. Ed, we talked about this somewhat in subcommittee, but I'd like you to go back over it. One of the concerns of entering into a commitment of 20 years is that in 20 years' time, these solar arrays, which will be installed now, may be current -1 or current -2 technology, or not. My question to you is, what's our level of expertise with this market, if you will? What's the, what's the cycle normally where we have a technology change that's, is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Are we going to expect a quantum leap a year from now?
I don't really have a good answer to that because the technology has improved in leaps and bounds. It goes a long period without improvement, then all of a sudden there could be a dramatic improvement. So there's no real clear answer. I don't know of anything out there on the horizon that promises a dramatic leap in productivity. The major changes that have occurred in the last few years are a reduction in the cost of the equipment. I mean, 5 years ago, we couldn't even have done this project even without the help from the recs from the UI. I believe the cost will go down over the years, but if we wait, all we're doing is then losing the income we're making now. So, I mean, that's the only reason to wait would be for that. Again, the productivity isn't going to change that much because of the way the angle of the sun hitting the earth in this part of the country. I mean, the state and the federal government have said that 14.4 or 14.48% of the time these things can work. It's the maximum they can work under the angle of the sun and the number of clear days you have in a year. So it doesn't matter. That isn't going to change. The only thing that will really change is the cost of the equipment and maybe the ability of the equipment to produce more power in that same 14% of the time. So I don't see it as a significant change. However, who knows? I could be wrong there, too.
So let me ask the question a different way. I think what I just heard was technology per se is
Tom, can you
not...
just talk on the microphone? Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. What I think I just heard was technology per se is not something we ought to focus on or be as concerned about? Is that... Okay. Fair enough.
Representative DiMartino.
Representative DiMartino, District 4. Ed, I know we talked about a couple of these items during our subcommittee meeting also, so I apologize if any of them are redundant in any way. But first I'd like to say that I am a supporter of the solar and alternative technology. So I don't want these questions to sound as though I'm not. But I do want to understand just the RFP process. And I know you touched upon that generally as far as the selection process of these vendors. Was there a public RFP issued?
No, it was not.
There was not.
There's a negotiation with a different bunch of vendors, and a selection between the first selection and the finance director, and public works director, and myself.
Okay. Is there any particular reason there wasn't a public RFP?
Well, there were so many companies out there proposing projects.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
I think it was just a matter, there were so many companies out there making proposals to us that there seemed to be enough selection and variety of technologies and companies that it would seem to be unnecessary to have an RFP.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that logic, because the same could be said for any vendor that the town hires, but I'm still kind of scratching my head on that answer. Can you tell me how long these companies have been in business and the number of employees? Just two general questions that I...
Well, these companies are, the parent companies have been in business for a long period of time and doing other things than solar, but this is what is it, I forgot what you call this kind of company, it's only in the business to make this one project, then it'll be another business. But they've been in business, I think the larger one's been in business about a dozen years and the smaller one for about 6 years.
He said 6 years.
I think another reason for not doing a formal RFP process, as I come back to it, is, and this isn't an excuse, it's just an explanation, it was the short period of time we had to put these projects together and get them to the state of Connecticut. We kind of looked at, if we did an RFP process, we probably never would have made it. They did not give everybody a long period of time to do this.
Thank you. Ed, just a couple more questions here. I know that in our subcommittee meeting, you were very thorough in your explanation. I do appreciate that. One question I asked about was, by putting these panels on the roofs, and I know that the roofs for these municipal buildings can be very expensive. We've replaced them in the past few years, and we have a schedule for all of those. But I wanted to know if any of the warranties would be voided by putting these panels on the roofs. And I think you said that the warranties would not be voided. Is that correct?
Actually, what I said, we made it a condition precedent of the contract that they won't be voided. That means sometime in the next few weeks, the contractor and the holder of the warranty on the roof will be touring the roof with the plans and specs and the town engineering department. And afterwards, we're asking the warranty holder to write a letter to the town stating just that it will not have a negative effect on the roof warranty. And if it does, then the contract is voided. We won't do the project, or we'll put it on the ground somewhere else.
Okay, thank you. And Ed, I know, as Representative McCarthy had just stated, that these solar panels capture 14% of the sun's rays throughout the course of a day, or whatever the time period is. And so the technology in that regard won't necessarily change very much. I'm a little hesitant, as a representative of the town, committing the town in my vote and supporting this, that we're biting off a little more than is necessary with technology that, as you stated, and I quote, technology improves in leaps and bounds. I mean, just look at our cell phones, for example, and I know that we're not talking about cell phones, but we're talking about, the efficiency of this type of technology. And I understand that the percentage of the rays won't change necessarily, but the efficiency of the actual product will. And I think that 20 years, I was one of the proponents of reducing the time period and the commitment that the town has from, the 20 years. I had an appetite for 10 years perhaps, but 15 years I was compromising, and now I'm hearing that 15 years is not doable either, so we're looking at 20. I know that technology is going to change significantly in 5 years, let alone 20. And then we're committing ourselves to 6 buildings here. I don't know if there's really a need to commit to all 6 buildings in our town that are right in the heart of our town, when we could do this, step by step. And I don't like being the first person or town to jump into the deep end of the pool here when our neighboring towns aren't subscribing to projects like this. So,
Well, there's been 4,000 of these commercial-sized PVs built in Connecticut in the last dozen years, 1,000 of them in UI service area. There were over almost 90 awards so far over the last 2 years on these projects. Bridgeport and Westport are both doing them. I'm not sure about the other towns in the region, but they are both doing them. You just see in the paper, Bridgeport is doing a huge one on their landfill, and Westport is doing a small one at its railroad station.
the Westport one, I'd be interested in, maybe if you can elaborate on what they're doing.
Well, Westport's a little different. They're putting in the railroad station a PV unit, which is going to be used to charge electric cars, but the excess being used to help pay for the cost of electricity at the railroad station. So theirs is different.
It's different, right?
Right. The other thing is, you know, again, the commitment of the town isn't money, it's just to have these things in place. I mean, we're guaranteed savings every year. Yes, you could guarantee more savings in the future probably, but we're going to be coming back every year for the next 15 years. This program's going to be in place, and different technologies will be presented each year that they're available. You know?
Thank you.
Any other comments? Representative Lipp.
Jay Lipp, RTM District 1. I got a couple questions. The first being the PPA price, it being fixed. As power changes, could that not have been arranged to be fixed per a what they charge the consumers? Because that could go up, it could go down, and in some cases we may be paying more or be paying less.
No, the way the law is written, it's a reverse auction. It's a fixed price for 15 years. It can't be changed.
The other question I have is about the insurance. The providers are required to have $2 million worth of insurance on the equipment to cover its general casualty. Would that also be covered under flood and under other non-general casualties, in such that it, another Hurricane Sandy or something along those lines, where some of these things cost nearly $2 million, if it gets a wash, are we just stuck with a bunch of junk?
I gotta ask the town attorney to explain the insurance a little better.
Can you state the question again?
The question is that the providers are required to place $2 million of insurance on this. Some of this equipment has almost that much value, and some of it is as little as $775,000, depending on the size. The $2 million liability, my concern is if we have a horrific storm again, and this stuff gets strewn along the parking lot and damages our building as the winds come up or floodwaters come into the different areas, what is their liability, since we're the ones that are going to have to live with the results?
I believe that the contracts call for standard general commercial liability policy, like any commercial operation would be, so anything that's covered under those policies would be covered here. They're required to maintain their own insurance to cover the equipment. We don't own the equipment. So if it gets destroyed, it costs us nothing, but the contract does require them to carry their own. It's almost like property damage coverage on a car, to cover their own equipment.
I understand. So I guess what I'm looking at is the effect of their equipment damaging our buildings or roofs or whatever, if they get blown off, something comes up to it. With general, that doesn't normally cover flood and other things, does it?
Well, the commercial liability is if something that they do or something that they own injures somebody else, and that would be covered from whatever cause, if they were found to be negligent, sure, or if there was a problem.
Is weather, storms considered negligence?
I suppose.
Act of God type thing?
Yeah, if one of them fell on me, I would probably make the claim that they didn't do it properly or that they were negligent. Yeah, it would be covered under their liability policy.
Okay, all right, thank you. The last question I have is more and more communities are producing these contracts and these agreements. Right now, this is supposed to be the sweetest deal we can get. Last year, if we had had the same contract, the same size, would it have been as good? And what the question is, are we trending towards sweeter deals as technology and things improve and more companies are producing this? And if we waited, could we get a better deal next year or the following year?
Well, the first year in the program, the bids were higher, which means we got a better deal because they were getting more money in the lower ZREC. Each time the bid went out, this is the second year, the bids went out down from an average of 140 to 80. So they're actually getting paid less as time goes on for these, and it gets more competitive every year. So that's the only thing I can see. Next year, if we do it again, the bids will be lower, and we may not be able to win because we put tight restrictions on them, assuming that our power won't go up for 20 years, our cost of power. So we may not even win anymore if it gets that tight. It's just the opposite.
Just so I understand, so you're saying that if we had the same contracts last year, what would have been different in the summary sheet? We would have gotten a higher rate for our utility? We would have been charged a lower rate, I should say, so a larger savings? Or what would have been different?
If they were awarded a contract at a higher ZREC price, we could have negotiated a better price for electricity for ourselves, yes. But they didn't do that last year. They did it this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure no one else. Representative Stamler?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ann Stamler, District 5. Through you to Mr. Bowman. If we have these solar panels installed this year, and in 5 years there is a better technology, these only provide a portion of the electricity consumed on each building, correct? Yes. Though that the percentage might vary from building to building. Do they occupy the entire roof?
Yes, they do. The entire usable part of the roof, except for those parts where it has other HVAC equipment on it or, other equipment on the roof. There's no way to expand them on the roof, only on the ground.
So what I'm asking is whether, if in 5 years there is a better technology, could that technology, whatever equipment is associated with it, be installed for use in the same building to provide an additional portion of the electricity? Or can that building only use this solar panel, this equipment?
Well, the roof in that building could only use it. I mean, if it could be done in the parking lot like the recreation center, then we could add a different technology there. But on the roof, that's it, one use.
So there's some restriction, but some freedom, some flexibility to add technology in the future.
Yes.
You want to address
Okay.
If I might, just to help expand on that, Mr. Bowman, could you describe in simple terms virtual net metering in terms of what might be coming down the road?
Another new concept, virtual net metering. The concept there's net metering now, which means if you're a homeowner and you're producing solar and you make more than you use, the power company has to buy it back from you. Okay, that's in place now. Virtual net metering is a concept that says that if we produce 4 times the amount of power we need for that building by putting new technology on it, we can say that we can designate up to 10 buildings where that power gets to be credited to. So if we build a big fuel cell and we use it at the sewage treatment plant, let's say, and it was enough power left over, we could say we want that to go to the library, we want it to go to the school, whatever. That's virtual net metering. So the total amount of that power created gets connected to the UI system, and we get to choose what building it gets to be used at. So that'll be next year.
That does expand the answer to the question. So there is flexibility in the future. Okay. Another question. This is procedural, I guess. On our agenda, item 9 refers to the fire headquarters. The contract we received was for police headquarters. There's a different address, and I don't know if the pricing and termination schedules are the same or not.
There never was a proposal for the police station. Somehow that, why the vendor did that rather than a firehouse, I have no idea. The firehouse is the correct address. They never had a proposal for the police station.
So is this simply the wrong designation?
Yes.
Everything else refers to, the contract is for the fire headquarters?
Yes.
So the 2 words police, so should we be amending those? Or what does, to the town attorney, through you, Mr. Moderator, what do we do?
The contract's got to be It's my understanding that the resolution that's in front of you is the correct resolution, correct, Ed?
Yes.
So you can vote on that resolution, we'll just change the contract, that's all. The body of
you.
the contract, everything else is the same, you just have to put the correct address in it.
All right, the information within the contract is the correct information. Thank you.
We're voting on the resolution as stated in the warning. I think that's what we're doing. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bates in District 3. Through you to Mr. Bowman. I'm really trying to understand this ZREC program. It sounds like what you had just said, that the ZREC was more valuable last year, less valuable this year, and if we don't act on this, it's going to be even less valuable next year. Is that correct?
Very possibly.
Very possibly. Okay. I would assume that that might be offset by more players that would enter the market. If more providers of PPAs got into this market, that would offset a decrease in the ZREC value.
I think it's just the opposite is what happened. As more and more players are coming in, the competition is getting tougher and the bids are getting lower.
Lower in that we are not benefiting through a higher kilowatt hour?
Lowering in the fact that they're bidding a lower ZREC, getting paid less by the power company for electricity, and therefore that would be offset by higher prices to us.
So fundamentally, I don't understand this market then, because there's no future in it. How is this program going to continue?
Well, not every town is assuming that there's going to be no increase in electricity for 20 years. A lot of them are assuming a 1 or 2% increase in electricity. And you measure a proposal against that, there's a lot of room in it. You could start out at, they could start out at 10 cents or 11 cents, and we assume that the 15 cents we're paying goes to 25 or 30 cents over 20 years. They could assume the amount of money they're paying, that we're paying them, goes from 10 cents to 25 cents over 20 years. And we did not do that. We wanted to make the most conservative assumption possible. Because with those contracts, what happens if the cost of power does not go that high? The town's still paying them, then they'll be paying them more than that they're actually paying for power. So these are the most conservative assumptions. Some of the companies wouldn't even bid under these conditions. The most common way they bid is to say they'll guarantee you a proportion of what you pay for power, 75% or something like that. So if we go to 30%, they'll charge us 75% of the 30 cents. They will not stick, they cannot, their business plan does not allow them to go with a proposal like this that says our power cost of power is fixed and you're bidding against that.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I know that this is where this market's going. I have certain feelings on these 6 projects. There's some of them I support, some of them I don't. I share Representative DiMartino's concern that we are jumping in with both feet. 6 projects at once. I really don't know. I can tell you personally the projects that I support on this list. I like the Rec Center project, the Operation Hope, and the Fire Department. I could see myself supporting those. The Rec Center, Mill Plain Road being an all-important test case for me personally. I want to see how the general public feels about a solar farm on Mill Plain Road. You're going to have something now, a structure that you're going to see from the road. I don't know how the general public feels about this stuff. I mean, yeah, it's where we're going, and I get that. But, I want to approve that because I want to see if we get any blowback from the public. I mean, it's hard to envision something like that until it's constructed. But I'm willing to take that chance on that structure to see if, this is viable. Bridgeport's doing Seaside Park. Next year, we might be talking about the landfill. So I would support that. There's 3 on here that I'm kind of hesitant to support, that being the DPW garage, the senior center, and the Fairfield Theater Company. The Oldfield School, I had some concerns on that because of the age of the roof. It sounds like a big structure. It's not going to generate that much electricity to offset the use on the building, and this goes to what Representative, I think, DiMartino or Mr. Lipp was saying, that maybe next year there might be better technology, same size unit, might get us a couple more kilowatts. I don't know. That might be a chance I'm willing to take. And also, too, there's part of me that wants to keep Oldfield in play for the BOE. I know, I can't speak for the BOE, but I don't want to put a structure on there. I don't even know whose building it is. I assume it's ours, but it might be in play to reopen as an elementary school. I don't want to take that off the table by putting a structure in there. I'd rather keep that one in the pipeline. Not saying we're going to use it, just in case. As for the Fairfield Theater Company, personally, I have a problem with that lease. I just didn't even know we were paying for electricity on that, considering that we rent it out. So just on a basis there, I don't see why I'm going to put money into something where actually I really think the tenant should be paying for electricity.
Jay Walk, District 6. I first want to say thank you, Mr. Bowman, for all the good work that you've done for our town. I just want to ask Representative Bates, and I think we forgot one part of where these solar panels are going to go. I believe, Mr. Bowman, Tomlinson School is going to be one from the train station going to Tomlinson School, which Tomlinson School is another one that we're going to be putting solar paneling, which they're going to directly get the use from solar paneling from the train station, I believe. Correct? Right. So I fully support that. And then going back to Representative Lipp, which I think your question was really spot on about insurance and how much we're going to pay, and God forbid we have another storm. I understand, as far as I understand you from Mr. Bowman, from our committee, that these solar panels are going to withstand 110-mile-an-hour winds, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the 110-mile wind is a requirement of the building code, so.
Representative Braun, you had your hand up earlier. Did you? You're up.
Catherine Braun, District 8. Through you to Mr. Bowman again. Regarding the revenue, I just went through the contract again. I can't find the exact provision, but in the summary that I think somebody provided, it said that we would be responsible for lost revenue should we have to do a major repair on a building, and which, of course, will happen at some point in the next 20 years. Is there an estimate of the lost revenue? I'm looking at your chart. I can't figure out the numbers. I see something that has what our savings are, but I can't tell from the chart what the revenue is that the vendor would be losing should we shut the building down for a few weeks or a month or 2 months or something like that.
The revenue be losing is the 8 cents that we're paying them, or whatever we're paying them. That's the revenue, yeah.
So
If it was a long-term, a year or better, he would lose the revenue also from UI. That would be only for a total roof replacement. Even that wouldn't be a year. It'd still be partial. So he wouldn't be losing the revenue from unless it was a year shutdown. And it wouldn't take a year to put a roof on, so.
Back up a little. I'm not as smart as you. We would be paying something related to UI as well as the savings. The savings here, for example, I'm just going to take the top one, 8 cents a kilowatt hour times 7.5 cents discount on the 15.5 price is $12,000 estimate for 153,000 kilowatt hours of usage.
Yeah,
So that's the savings is 12,000 according to this sheet. So
Right.
is that the lost revenue?
If it was for a whole year, that would be a lost revenue.
Okay.
But it's more likely to be a week,
Okay.
a small repair, so,
A big repair could be longer.
a month maybe, yeah.
Okay.
And that would be part of that number would be the lost revenue. It's not to UI, it's to the company.
So this,
So they could lose revenue from UI, from the
we
LRAD.
would not have to pay that.
No.
Okay. And just to repeat something, I think I heard you say earlier there's a condition precedent that the roof warranties would have to be dealt with before the project, because I did not see that in the contract. I don't know if that would be added or,
That's being added as a result of some of the questions from the RTM committees, yes. There will be a condition precedent put in the contract and then added to the ones that are already there that states that we will get a written letter from the holder of the warranty that these installations will not negatively affect the warranty.
and just to piggyback on what Mr. Bateson was saying, is there any problem with picking and choosing some of these buildings? Does this have to all be done according to the program, or do these vendors want all their projects done, or could we break it up and just pick a few of them?
Well, of course, the vendors want them all done, and I'd like them all done, but you're voting on each one separately, so it's entirely up to you.
They're not dependent on each other.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Marks?
Alan Marks, District 8. I just wanted to say that I support these projects. I'm thrilled the town is engaging in a project where we are now going to be going with green energy. Remember that there is no cost to the town. Every project adds to the savings that we're going to be gaining. So I think this is a win-win for the town, and I'm anxious to see what's coming forward. Remember that there's been some talk about new technology might saving additional or gaining productivity. Future projects, we will take advantage of those new technologies. So I think that the current proposals are all good, and I'm anxious to see what's coming forward. Thank you.
What you're saying reminds me also of the new technologies, and I think when we look at the question of new technologies being more efficient or less expensive, when we look at it, these are all small projects. The future ones in schools will be 5 or 6 or 10 times as large as this. So when we get to that point, and there are new technologies, the larger projects the town might propose will be able to take advantage of that.
Representative Jacob, did you have a question? Okay.
Ellen Jacob, District 9. Through you, Mr. Moderator, anyone who can answer, I'm still, believe it or not, confused about whether this is a voluntary program on the part of UI and on our part as a town. Is it voluntary, or is it compulsory based on state mandate?
It's compulsory for United Illuminating and the other electric company in Connecticut to do this, to get 20% green power over the next 15 years through the sale of these LRECs or by building green power themselves. It's mandatory on their part. It's not mandatory on our part. Although we're paying for it, our electric bills over the next 20 years will have money in it to pay for these projects, whether we do them or not. I'm just trying to get back the money that the taxpayers are paying part of their electric bills for this, but it's not mandatory, no.
And our information said it was 25 years that they had to comply. Is it 25 or 15?
The UI, I think it's by year 2020 has to comply with it. Yeah.
22. Yeah. Okay. And then the other question is, what percentage of the building's total power requirements would be satisfied by the solar panels?
In the case of Operation Hope, the firehouse, it's a very small portion, maybe 5 or 10%, because the roofs are too small. At the Public Works Garage and at the Senior Center, it's maybe like 15 or 20%. But at the Recreation Center, it's like 75%.
Thank you.
Representative Palmer.
Joe Palmer, District 4. Mr. Bowman, just to clarify, the Fairfield train station project, that's something that's being discussed for the next phase. That's not on here, right?
It's not on our agenda, but it has been an approved project. But it's working its way through the Parking Authority and the Board of Education right now. So.
Okay. And then during our committee meetings, Representative Hannum had suggested consolidating the panels that were kind of proposed for Oldfield and the DPW into the landfill. Has that been explored, and is that something that we would need to vote on in terms of? I think that can alleviate some individuals' concerns over the roof structures and warranties, et cetera. So,
Well, I think what we have here is if the condition precedent isn't set on either one of those two roofs, then those projects would be put on the landfill. The reason we don't want to do them on the landfill right now is there are people out there who want to propose a major installation on the landfill, and this would take away from that. But again, once again, if they can work on the roofs without hurting the warranties, they would put on the roofs. If not, they would put on the landfill. And that can be done, I think, just by, you don't need to have that specify that. That can be just done in the contract.
So at the end of the day, there are a couple factors that'll come into play, but these are poised for being on the Oldfield roof and the DPW roof, unless the warranty says there's some warranty problem and says no deal, or the second piece is no. That's really the only one. Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Public.
Hi, Scott Thompson. I'm a resident of District 9 and volunteer in town with the Clean Energy Task Force. And I am here to speak in favor of these projects. I first want to say thank you to Mr. Bowman for all of the hard work that he has done in pushing these ahead, sharing the information. But I really want to recognize the level of scrutiny that this body has put to Ed. I really think you're asking a lot of very intelligent questions. I think you're asking the right questions. But I will say that as a resident, I've had solar panels on my house for 5 years. I know it's not 20. I wish I could tell you I've been here 20 years. But really, the only thing that's different than 5 years ago is my bill is a heck of a lot lower, and that's it. It's really that simple. And I do remember, though, when I was making the decision to go solar, there was a lot of angst and a lot of worry. And it felt like a leap of faith. But in hindsight, it really wasn't. It was a no-brainer at the time. If you look at the numbers, I think you'll see that. In terms of risk, I'm also, my day job, I'm a professional engineer. I'm a licensed environmental professional. I've talked to Ed quite a bit about these projects, and there may be some aesthetic concerns by some residents. I bet Mr. Moderator's kids would love the aesthetics of solar panels, knowing we were getting free energy from the sun. But the bottom line on risk really is that nothing has zero risk, but there's very little tangible risk associated with these solar projects, whether they're rooftop or parking lot. So again, I want to thank you for the way you're looking at these and scrutinizing them, but really hope that you vote yes on all 6 projects.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Hi. Hi, I'm Mary Hogue, and I am a proud owner of some solar panels that I got this spring. And I just wanted to say that your questions are great. My husband was probably about 10 times more nervous than you were. We bugged Scott considerably, got all kinds of research, and it's really important that you do ask these questions. I hope that you get your answers satisfied, because as representatives for our town, you know, you're doing a very good job, and I appreciate it. I can tell you that my bill is half of what it was. We don't have an aesthetic issue. It's on the back of my house, but, you know, so you have to look for it. But speaking about my kids are absolutely thrilled over the concept of it. They're very proud that we've done this. I'm very proud when I write my check for UI, and it's half of what it is every month. So we're looking at cost savings for the town, and I've sat through many budget meetings, and thank you all for sitting through all those too. And I think it's really important that when we can find a cost savings, that we can get assurances that it's not going to cause a problem, and it is going to give us a cost savings. I don't see how you can't vote for it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Larry Cayley. I'm in District 8. I used to be sitting on this side, and I could ask more questions. But It was the RTM in the year 2004 that passed, by unanimous consent, the 20 by 2010 resolution, which called for the town to reduce its energy use by 10% by 2010, obviously, and we did that. So I was very pleased with that. And going to solar panels, I too have solar panels, and my wife fought it. Said, oh, it's going to look terrible, and I have people literally stopping, looking at the panels in my house. It's on 1162 Jennings Road. You can't miss it. And it looks good, and my bill is better than any of yours. So I could afford that. Now, one thing we have to consider when we look at these issues, the cost and the issues are not always straightforward. I got involved initially with environmental issues really because there was an asthma problem. The plant, the coal plant, the UI plant in Bridgeport was problematic, and we were trying to close it or at least cut emissions. Asthma rates were up in Bridgeport, and Fairfield there was no problem until we checked into that. And we checked that through the nurses in the Board of Ed, and holy mackerel, there was a problem. Asthma rates in Fairfield were up. So we do have to look at ways to cut down on our use of fossil fuels. No, we're not going to make a dramatic change, but it's cumulative. It makes a difference. So I strongly urge you to vote for this. As far as the theater company goes, another indirect benefit. Think about it. You have a theater company, and they have clientele. They come in to see whatever show there is, and what do they do afterwards? They're spending money in town, downtown, and that brings in tax revenue. So we need to look at a lot of these issues in many different ways, and I know I'm not thinking of all of them, but I hope you do support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
I'm Jim Motivali. I live on Brooklawn Terrace, and I'm a environmental writer who writes a lot about alternative energy issues. I do not have solar panels because I don't have really the proper orientation. I wish I could. I think some of the town buildings are perfectly oriented for solar. I did want to just address the one point about whether the technology is likely to be better in the next year and whether you should wait about it. In point of fact, the panels themselves have not really significantly changed over the last 10 or 20 years, and the efficiency of them has gotten a bit better, but not a huge amount. But the main thing that's changed is they've gotten cheaper, and it is true that they will be cheaper next year, but I think they'll be cheaper the year after that, so you'd probably end up never buying them for that reason, which doesn't, buying them is the wrong word. Leasing them or buying their power from them. I do think that it does sound like 14–15% efficiency is not very good. That's just the way solar panels are, and I don't think the efficiency of them is going to, that part of it isn't likely to change. I think the solar deals right now, and we've only recently, I just did a story about disruptive technology. There's a solar company called Solar City that's recently come into Connecticut. Some of you may have seen solicitations from them. And solar leasing and solar purchase, power purchase agreements have really sort of swept the area because you don't put the money forward. And that's what makes it a good deal for the town. And it's why all the other towns around here are going for it. So I think it's a very good deal for the town. And I think it's a disruptive technology that's really going to change and put a lot of alternative energy into towns like ours. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? We're going to come back to the body. Any other members of the body? Mr. Tetra.
Just wanted to comment on two areas. One, to Representative Baton's point about the FTC lease. We actually talked about that pretty extensively during the Board of Finance meetings during the last budget process. And the way the lease was set up a few years back was that the FTC pays the town roughly $2 per ticket for what, over the course of the year, how many tickets they sell for performances in there. And FTC, that amounts to roughly $40,000 and change each year. The town provides the utilities, the electric for the building, and magically that ends up in the high 30s each year based on kind of what they do. So given the way the lease is currently written, given this is a long-term lease, it won't be coming up for renewal anytime soon, by reducing the electric costs for that facility, the town gets the maximum benefit. We still get the rent based on tickets sold to FTC, but we're able to reduce the town's cost of what it puts into the building. So this project on the FTC would be a positive. The other piece is on the senior center. You know, we might use that building for a number of other purposes in the future. I'm not sure using it as a school would really pass muster from the standpoint that we'd have to spend tens of millions of dollars, and probably in the $20 to $30 million range when you look at what it takes for us to renovate a school. Think about building it new, and think about whether this body would approve that type of investment in a floodplain that close to where the marshes are. So during Storm Sandy, we lucked out down there and the water didn't come into the building, but it certainly came close. All right? So I don't mean to say that building wouldn't have an alternative purpose at some point, and the senior center might move. Just to be clear, there are no plans to do that. Don't want the seniors worried. Every time we talk about this, I get calls from the seniors saying, you know, where are you putting the center, and is it going to be closer to my house? So there are no plans to do that, but over 10 or 20 years, it certainly is something that would come up, and the town might in the future look at doing that. So even if it didn't become an elementary school again, it might become another facility. More than likely, that can be arranged to keep the roof in place and make sure that the free electricity we're getting at that point, or the discounted electricity we're getting at that point, is still a benefit of the town. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to just go through these 6. Yes. I mean, what, do you want to just make the comment now?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Josh Garskoff, District 5. The senior center, I think this is for Ed or maybe Mike. The roof, what is the expected life of the roof there now?
Ed, you have those numbers, I believe. Half the roof, Ed, I think you need to come up to the mic. I know half the roof was put on recently, because that happened during my last couple of years on the Board of Finance.
Yeah, the roof that we're looking at, warranty expires in 2032. 32. Yep. On the senior center? Yes. On the part of that building where we're putting the PV, whether it's on the senior center or another, I'm not sure exactly where they're putting it, but it expires in 2032, and that part of the roof that we're putting the solar on. The warranty expires in 2032.
Representative Lee. When he's done, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I gave a fake. Okay, so wasn't there one roof that was pretty old that we were talking about? Do I have the wrong one?
No, that's old. But, you know, again, part of it's new, part of it's old on Oldfield. So part of the Oldfield roof is old. However, it's a built-up roof, and they feel comfortable that it wouldn't have any effect on the roof itself, but that's what the engineers and the warranty holder will decide. In other words, they'll go up on the roof, and once there are plans and specs developed, they'll bring them to the roof. with the warranty holder, our engineering department go through that whole thing. And if it does, even if the warranty is that long and it affects the warranty, then we'll put it on the landfill.
But the expectation would be that the solar panel, the 20-year life of this project the roof would outlive that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Lee, District 10. This is just a quick comment on Oldfield. Oldfield was built before Sherman. Sherman is in my district. And when we were trying to renovate that school, we were locked in by the FEMA 50% limit. So to do anything with Oldfield, it has to be leveled. So there's not going to be any, I mean, we can't put a second story on it or whatever. So I don't really see where that's a player.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and vote. We're just going to do voice votes. And I'm not going to read every one. We're just going to go first to item number 4, which is the Public Works Garage. So that's what we're voting on. So, all those in favor of the Public Works Garage, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Just keep your hands up. Representative Bateson, Sunman, Mezoff, Meyer, DiMartino, Ferentz, Jacob, Carey, and McKenzie. Abstentions? Okay. That item passes. I don't have the exact vote, but it passes. Item number 5, which is the Senior Center. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bateson, Steele, Carey, McKenzie, Braun, Ferentz, Jacob, DiMartino, Meyer, Sunman, and is that Conley? Oh, Mezoff, I'm sorry. Couldn't tell where the hand was coming out of. Looks like the same group plus one. Abstentions. That item also passes. Item number 6, Postal Recreation Center. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ambrose, Carey, Ferentz, DiMartino. Abstentions. That item passes. Item number 7, Operation Hope. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Representative Mirabili, Carey, McKenzie, DiMartino, Braun, Mezoff. Abstentions. That item passes. Item number 8, Fairfield Theater Company. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Keep them up. Bateson, Ambrose, Mirabili, Carey, McKenzie, Jacob, DiMartino, Mezoff. Abstentions. That item passes, and the final item, number 9, is the fire headquarters. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mirabili, Carey, Jacob, DiMartino. Abstentions? That item passes. We now go to item number 10, which is to consider and act upon any other matters presented at said meeting and which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. The next meeting will be held, I don't know when, but third week in November. We have the Thanksgiving week, and I think it's that Monday before Thanksgiving, or swearing in is the 18th, so we'll determine when the meeting is. Now, for all, the 23rd? The 23rd here. I wish everyone the best of luck in their next pursuit, in their races, their candidacies, their lives outside of the RTM, and it has been a pleasure. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Representative D'Amica, second. Representative Marmion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? DiMartino, Sunman, abstentions? Oh. Sunman and Mezzoff abstentions. We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.